Dear organizers, dear colleagues and participants, it gives me pleasure to join today's discussion on this important aspect of the role of the mass media in portraying Roma and Sinti people. I congratulate ERIAC for this initiative. Romalen, pralalen, taipenelen, taven, sostete bachtale. This topic is part of the 2003 OSCE Action Plan on improving the situation of Roma and Sinti, and reiterated by Ministerial Council decisions from 2008, 2009, and 2013. OSCE commitments stipulate clearly that media should produce positive stories regarding Roma and Sinti, portray them in a manner that it's balanced, and refrain from promoting discourses and stereotypes that could contribute to hatred and incitement against them. Whether we speak of radio or television or the written press, be it printed or online, when it's about the Roma and Sinti people, their portrayal in and by the mass media is overwhelmingly unilateral. It is full of prejudices and stereotypes, many of them perpetuated through generations, from old chronicles and historic accounts to nowadays advent of modern digital communication platforms. The quest for sensationalism by many of the media entities and journalists is in direct contradiction with the values and principles of ethical and responsible journalism. As such, it violates codes of conduct, social norms, and oftentimes the laws. Objectivity, impartiality, balanced portrayal, non-bias, and non-discrimination are the real values that should constitute the moral and professional compass guiding the work of journalists and the media. A pervasive pattern of news articles and audio-video broadcasts and materials make the highlights daily through Europe, depicting Roma and Sinti through a long list of epithets such as criminals, genetically prone delinquents and deviants, thieves, cunning and untrustworthy, lazy and work-shy, parasitizing and exploiting the social welfare systems, be savage or wild, asocial and inadaptable, incapable of learning and unwilling to integrate and live a civil and lawful life. Anti-Roma discourse and rhetoric of hatred about the Roma and Sinti are an unfortunate reality. They are propagated in our societies both by the media itself through self-produced hate and bias materials, as well as by disseminating statements issued by state presidents, high-profile government officials, and party leaders, public personalities, and intellectuals. Such unfair conduct harms not only the Roma and Sinti, but our society as a whole. Few words about ODIHR activities. Relating to these concerns, in the past years, ODIHR has organized several activities such as roundtables and consultations with professionals working in the media, and has gathered information through a small-scale media monitoring conducted by Roma journalists, consultants in 10 countries, looking at the portrayal of Roma and Sinti since the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic. An internal database was built comprising 550 articles from national and regional media focusing on portrayal of Roma and the way some of the pandemic-related measures impacted upon the Roma communities in a disproportionate manner. The analysis confirmed that hate speech made up 33% of news stories, which is also indicative of an ongoing problem with the media being a key driver and channel of racism towards Roma and Sinti. 21% of the news reported on incidents involving Roma communities, often portraying the Roma as the rule breakers, and Roma settlements being the places that need police interventions or intensified patrolling and control. 32% of reports by media were balanced. This shows a progress of a human rights agenda gaining some field in newsrooms across Europe. Misinformation and false and fake news made up just 6% of the reports. Few country examples. In UK, the usual themes generated by British media about the communities were largely focusing on the impact of Gypsy, Roma and traveller communities on majority communities. The news were largely conflict-driven and focused on use of police eviction powers on nomadic GRT groups. The impact of the GRT community events, such as funerals and horse fairs, and whether these are safe in a time of a pandemic and outbreak in GRT communities were in focus. Negative or hostile news made up 40% of the news, while balanced professional news were at 20%. There were also a significant number of good practice articles, around 40% of what was monitored, that looked at the impact of the pandemic on the community. In terms of protagonists, of the 28 articles representing 30%, were inclusive of Roma voice, while the majority, 70% of them, included non-Roma voices only. In Ukraine, the main topics that were published were about administrative and criminal offenses related to laws, the situation in Roma communities during the pandemic, culture and traditions, the case of hate speech in Ivano-Frankivsk in April 2020, and a case of physical pogrom in the village of Andriivka, Kharkiv region. According to data analyzed from regional internet media, in Ukraine, negative publications made up to 47%. Neutral publications were at 40%, while positive publications were at 13%. In terms of protagonists, only 10% of the articles included Roma own opinion or point of view. In Hungary, the media outlets reported mainly about the situation of Roma in the context of the pandemic and measures that directly affected the Roma. Most of them were connected to the social economic situation, health problems, and overcrowding in Roma settlements, suggesting that most of these people are living in an environment that helps the spread of the virus, not just in the circle of the Roma community, but also elsewhere for everybody else. At the independent media, around 90% of the articles had fair titles. However, almost all of these contained photographs which were biased in nature. In Romania, 54% of the media news incited hate speech, 25% reported about incidents, and less than 10% about good practices. 32 articles depicted various police interventions into Roma communities, and 24 articles blamed the Roma for the pandemic. In Bulgaria, 60% of the media news incited hate speech, and 10% reported about incidents that occurred in the Roma settlements. Findings of this media monitoring were presented last December during the roundtable entitled Promoting Fair Portrayal of Roma and Sinti by the Media, Challenges and Perspectives, organized under the auspices of 3 OSCE institutions, the ODIHR, the Representative on the Freedom of the Media, and the High Commission on National Minorities, together with journalists, both Roma and non-Roma, as well as other relevant entities and professionals working on this topic. They discussed about the role of the mass media in the perpetuation of a biased portrayal of the Roma and how this impacts negatively on the Roma inclusion efforts. Aside from monitoring the media, ODIHR also supported the production of news articles and feature stories on the impact of the pandemic upon the Roma, and a number of them were published by various online portals and the media outlets. As a conclusion, the good journalistic practices need to be multiplied and expanded within countries and across Europe. We need to organize regularly public debates, anti-discrimination and awareness-raising campaigns, and develop and implement joint training and capacity-building programs with and for the media, promoting ethical, responsible, and accountable journalism. Thank you for your attention.